Okay, so simplifying, multiplying, dividing rational expressions. Fun fact, there's a wild animal in East Asia called the raccoon dog, which looks like a raccoon, but is actually a dog. And it's actually super freaking cute. Okay, so rational expressions. A rational expression is the ratio of two polynomials. So that means you have a polynomial on top and you have a polynomial on bottom. And we've been doing tons and tons and tons of stuff with polynomials. We've add, subtract, multiply, divide, graphed them, and so now we're going to mess with them as fractions. Okay, so these are all examples of polynomial expressions. And notice this one, you can always write a polynomial expression over 1. You can always write whatever fraction or whatever you have, you can always write it over 1. Okay. And then these ones are not polynomial expressions because this one has the square root of x, that is not allowed. This one has the 1 over x, that is also not allowed. Okay. So in general, it's just like p of x over q of x, where q of x cannot equal 0 because we cannot divide by 0. Okay. Okay, so let's go through just reducing fractions. So like this 36 over 48, we could reduce this by dividing, seeing what goes into top and bottom, which here 12 goes into 36 and 12 also goes into 48. So I can divide those by 12, which 36 divided by 12, I'm just left with 3. And this is just saying when I divide this by 12, 3 times 12 is the same thing as 36. So that means I'm like not changing this equation at all. 4 times 12 is the same thing as 48. Okay, and see how these 12s cancel? So that means like 12 goes into 36 3 times. 12 goes into 48 4 times. So this equals 3/4. Okay, just reducing fractions like you have done in the past. Okay, so if we had 21 over 49, we would see what goes into both of those, which it happens to be 7. So 3 times 7 is the same as 21. 7 times 7 is the same as 49. So those 7s cancel, which means I'm left with 3 7s. Okay, so simplifying rational expressions. We've done this. This was like the very, very first thing we did, actually, dealing with exponent rules, but we can do this. So we want to first see what goes into, I'm just going to do this with my pen. So we want to see what goes into 20 and 14. Well, 2 does. 2 goes into 20 10 times. 2 goes into 14 7 times. So I'm left with 10x to the 6th over 7x squared, which that x to the 6th I could really write as 10x, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. And this would be 7 and 2 of those x's. So that means that 2 of these x's are going to cancel, and I would just be left with 10. All of these x's combined to be x to the 4th over 7. Okay. So if we, which is what we got. This one, so here, first thing we want to do is see what goes into 35 and 14. Well, it's 7. 7 goes into 35 5 times. 7 goes into 14 twice. Then if I have 4 y's on top and I have 7 of them on bottom, well, I can cancel 4 of them, right? So these 4 will cancel these 4. So I'm left with 3 on the bottom. So this is going to be 5 over 2y cubed. Okay. Which let's double check. That's what we got. Okay, let's do these with a little bit harder. So factoring is not going away. So if you are struggling with factoring, you really need to come in and talk to me or send me an email or whatever so we can really, really get down factoring, okay? So, what the heck? So we need to factor the top, which always check GCF first. It just never goes away. So we can pull out a 6 from the top there and you get 6 and k minus 6. And from the bottom, it's just k minus 6. And notice how we have a k minus 6 on top and we have a k minus 6 on bottom. Well, those cancel, and so I'm just left with a 6. Okay. So this one, if we have y plus 8 over y squared plus 2y minus 48, well, the top can't factor, but the bottom can factor. We're trying to see what multiplies to be negative 48 and adds to be 2. So what multiplies to be 48 and adds to be 2? Well, it's 8 and negative 6. So that means that's going to factor to be y plus 8 and y minus 6. Notice those y plus 8s are going to cancel. There's nothing left on top, which means there is a 1. So it's 1 over y minus 6. Okay. This one, so always check GCF first on the top of 2r squared minus 2r minus 40. I can pull out a 2 from there. 8r plus 32, I can pull out an 8 from there. So you get 2 and then r squared minus r minus 20. On the bottom you have 8 and then r plus 4. That 2 and that 8, so right, what happened right here is 2 goes into itself one time. So technically you could put a 1 on the outside of this, but multiplying something by 1 is the same as just getting whatever that something is. And then 2 goes into 8 4 times, which is where that 4 came from. Okay, and then we can factor the top. So see what multiplies to be negative 20, adds to be negative 1. It's negative 5 and 4, so this is r minus 5 and r plus 4 over 4 and r plus 4. So those r plus 4s are going to cancel out, and I'm just left with r minus 5 over 4. Okay. Okay, let's get into multiplying. So multiplying is the same as simplifying, except now there's more than one fraction. So when we were simplifying, there's only one fraction. When we're multiplying, there's usually just 2, but you could have more than 2. So if we have this one, 6x squared y cubed over 2x squared y squared, and then 10x cubed y to the 4th over 18y squared. If there's no pluses or minuses, we're going to multiply this first and then simplify. So there's no addition or subtraction signs here, so let's just multiply everything together. So if we do this, 6 times 10 is 60. X cubed times x squared, so x squared times x cubed is x to the 5th. And then y cubed and y to the 4th is y to the 7th. And then 2 times 18 is 36. X squared, y squared times y squared is y to the 4th. Okay, and then we need to just reduce this. So we want to see what goes into 60 and 36. Well, 12 does. 12 goes into 36 3 times. 12 goes into 60 5 times. If we have 5 x's on top and 2 on bottom, we're going to be left with an x cubed on top, and then we're left with a y cubed there. So our final answer here would be 5x cubed y cubed over 3. Okay, let's double check this. Yep. Okay, let's do one more. So we're going to multiply on top. So this is going to be 4 times 5 is 20. A squared times a cubed is a to the 5th. B squared times b to the 6th is b to the 8th. 15 times 12. I don't know what that is. I don't have a calculator. So that'd be 0, 1, 3, 180. So this is 180. A to the 5th. B to the 10th. Okay, and then we just want to simplify this. So 20 goes into 180. So 20 goes into itself 1 times. 20 goes into 180 9 times. These a to the 5ths just cancel, and then that's going to be left with a b squared on the bottom. So our final answer here would be 1 over 9b squared. Cool. Perfect. Okay, let's do this one. So now we're multiplying, but there is a plus and a minus. So when this happens, you have to factor everything first, and then we're going to simplify it. So like this, always check GCF. Yep. So this first one, I can pull out a 4x from here. Here I can pull out a 2. Here I can pull out a 4x. So that's where I get the 4x plus 1. This is where I get 2, and then x squared plus 2x minus 3, and that's that one. Okay, and then we're going to finish simplifying by factoring everything. So this x squared plus 2x minus 3, well, we want to see what multiplies to be negative 3, adds to be 2, and it's 3 and negative 1. So that's what's going to replace that part. And then the x squared plus x minus 6, well, I want to see what multiplies to be negative 6, adds to be 1. Well, it's 3 and negative 2, so that's going to replace that part. And then we go through, and I always just start left to right on the top and see what cancels. So we have a 4x on top. We also have a 4x on bottom, so those are gone. We have an x minus 1 on top. We also have 1 on bottom, so those cancel. We have an x plus 3 on top and an x plus 3 on bottom, so those cancel. We have an x minus 2 on top, and we have an x plus 2 on the bottom. Those are different, so those do not cancel. So then our final answer here, we just make it one fraction. This is going to be x minus 2 over 2 times x plus 2. Okay, let's do this one. So start by taking out GCF. So like on that 5v squared plus 10v, I can pull out a negative 5v. So I'm left with a v minus 2, and then everything else stayed the same. Now I'm going to factor everything. So I want to see what multiplies to be 18, adds to be negative 11. Well, it's negative 9 and negative 2. So that replaces that right there. This one, I want to see what multiplies to be negative 9, adds to be negative 8. Well, it's negative 9 and 1. So that replaces that right there. And then I'm going to start canceling stuff. So I have a negative 5v on top and a 15v on bottom. Well, the 5v and the 15v, 5 goes into 15 3 times, and the v's cancel. So I'm just left with a 3 on the bottom. Okay, and you can think about this as if you had like 5v over 15v. Well, these would cancel, right? And we'd be left with 1/3. Well, that's essentially what just happened up there. Okay. And then the v minus 2's cancel, the v minus 9's cancel, and I'm left with a negative v plus 1 over 3. Okay. So multiplying is the same as simplifying, except you have two fractions. Dividing is essentially the same also, except we just have one extra step. The thing I like about dividing fractions is nothing and maybe keep, change, and flip. So that keep, change, and flip, that just means that you flip the second fraction and it becomes a multiplication problem. Okay, so like if we're doing this one right here, I don't like division. If we can make division multiplication, we want to do so. We can just flip that. And so then you get 5pq over 16p cubed, p cubed, and then 8q to the 5th over 35p squared q to the 2nd. So we just flipped that second fraction, and it became a multiplication problem. And then you do this the same way you would do a multiplication. So here there's no addition or subtraction, so we can just multiply and then simplify. So 5 times 8 is 40. And then q times q to the 5th is q to the 6th. And then 16 times 35. Well, these are hard. Okay, so 16 times 35. Well, 5 times 6 is 30. 5 times 1 is 5. That's 8. 3 times 6 is 18. 3 times 1 is 3. So that would be 4. So it's 0, 6, 5, 60. And then we have p to the 5th and q squared. Okay, so then we need to simplify this, which looks kind of hard. So let's see. So we want to see what goes into 40 and 50. Well, I know 10 does, so that'd be a 4, and this goes in 56 times. Now those are both even, so then 2 goes in to 4 twice. 2 goes into 56 23 times. I think that's as far as you can go. That is wrong. 28 times. And then 2 goes into itself once, 2 goes into 28 14 times. So that means 40 must have gone into 560 14 times. Then this p will cancel one of those, so I'm left with p to the 4th. Those q's will cancel 2 of those, so I'm left with q to the 4th. So we're left with q to the 4th over 14p to the 4th. Okay, let's double check, make sure we were right. Yep. Okay, so then let's do something like this. So for this one, we want to flip it first. Whenever it's division, flip it. Okay, that is very important to write down. Division, flip it. So that becomes 10 over 4x minus 8 times x squared plus x minus 6 over 2x squared plus 6x. We're going to factor out GCF wherever we can. So I'm going to factor out a 4, and we're left with x minus 2 from this piece. And here I can factor out a 2x. Okay, and then the last thing I need to do is factor that x squared plus x minus 6. So I want to see what multiplies to be negative 6, adds to be 1. Well, that's 3 and negative 2. So this becomes x plus 3 and x minus 2. Then I want to see what's going to cancel, or what can I cancel? Well, that 10 and the 2, or 10 and the 4 can reduce. So 2 goes into 10 5 times, and 2 goes into 4 twice. The x plus 3's cancel, and the x minus 2's cancel. So I'm left with 5 on top, and then 2 times 2x is 4x on the bottom. Okay, let's do one more. So here I'm going to flip that, and I get 2a cubed minus 12a squared over a squared minus 4a minus 12, then times a squared minus 8a plus 15 over 8a cubed minus 24a squared. Factor out GCFs where I can, so I can factor out a 2a squared on this one. And I'm left with a minus 6. Here I can factor out an 8a squared, so I'm left with a minus 3. Then I need to see what multiplies, so I need to factor that a squared minus 4a minus 12. So see what multiplies to be negative 12, adds to be negative 4. Well, it's negative 6 and 2, so that's that piece right there. See what multiplies to be 15, adds to be negative 8. Well, it's negative 3 and negative 5, so that's that piece right there. Then I can start canceling stuff. So 2a squared and 8a squared. Well, 2 goes in 8 4 times, and the a squareds cancel, so I'm just left with 4 on the bottom. A minus 6's cancel, and the a minus 3's cancel. So on top, I'm left with a minus 5. On bottom, I'm left with 4 times a plus 1, a plus 2. Cool. And now we are finished. Bye, guys.